Yeah, thank you, Peter. Good evening. I think we saw in the end a thriller, especially the last minute. I think had everyone off their seats. At times it wasn't pretty. It was a war. Both of them, you saw exactly how much was at stake tonight. I would say that their styles didn't gel, but they certainly went in there fully committed and created a war out of it, which ended up having a very, very dramatic ending. Just before I get into it, they're both, or George is definitely not going to be there. Shane will talk about the fight and make a statement on behalf of George in a minute. He's in hospital with a shoulder injury, which is unconfirmed what that is. I'm certainly not a doctor, and Shane, I think, is a bit more qualified to answer, but I think we'll wait till the doctors give us an update on George's condition, and it is just a shoulder injury. That's the reason he's in hospital. Junior, I've been told that he's potentially coming out, but we are waiting for confirmation on that. I know he's being stitched on a rather nasty cut. I think that's my take on the fight. Shane, maybe you could your take and a statement from George.
Yeah, first off, on anti-climax, I am sat here instead of George Groves after that amazing victory. I thought he bossed it from the first round, maybe lost 3, maybe 4 rounds. Obviously, he suffered a shoulder injury in the last round. We don't know exactly what that is. I'm no doctor, no expert, but it's definitely something that we're going to have to sit and address, and hopefully he can get recovered nice and quick, because after a performance like that, he's the best swimmer on the planet, and followed the game plan to a T and executed it, and yeah, I think we beat them on many different levels.
Did his shoulder come out?
He said it felt like that, yeah.
Was that when you guys were throwing the towel in? He looked through it like.
Next question.
Was that the last round, Shane?
Yeah, listen. I mean, it was 40 to 50 seconds into. I think I looked across at Josh Pritchard, who's my assistant, and I said, "How long have we got?" And at that stage, it was about 2 minutes. So I think it was maybe 50 seconds into the last round, but there's no towel going in. I mean, when you're so far up on points, well, he should have been anyway. I thought the scorecards were far too close. He was always going to be able to survive that last 2 minutes.
What do you think it was? Did he miss with a shot?
I think he missed with a long left hook, and yeah, I mean, when you're tired and you're fatigued, your muscles are tired and fatigued. Just an awkward shot. I mean, Eubank was jumping in all night long, coming in with his elbows, and physically the two of them were tying each other up. It was quite clumsy on the inside, but there was no issues with his shoulder throughout camp. So yeah.
How big a concern is it, Shane, if he's got this shoulder injury, that he's going to be ready in time for the final?
It's a massive concern, but it's a massive concern for the tournament. George Groves' health is paramount.
Callie, is there any scope for moving the dates, if possible, if it comes to it, that because George has got this injury, he might not be fit in time?
We have a scope within when the tournament has to be completed. I won't go into details on that now. But we'll wait till Monday. We're hopeful that with those sort of injuries, it can be that he can train very, very quickly again, if it's just a case of it popping out. But you don't know. No one knows if there's any damage until the scans have been analysed by experts. And I've had a lot of experience with shoulder injuries with athletes of mine, and even the first diagnosis, I still want to see a second and a third one as well on my shoulder. It's a big muscle when it comes to boxing. It's a complicated one. But I've seen those sorts of injuries and boxers fight very quickly again. It really depends on whether he's had luck or bad luck in that moment. But I would say, actually, I mean, the way he boxed and tied him up just with the right hand and stole time was, for me, heroic. You know, it was certainly a heroic ending to the fight from George. And, yeah, it was a grandstand finish.
Shane, is the win made all the sweeter after everything was said in the build-up? They made a lot of personal attacks on you and George.
Yeah, but we're not out here to prove Eubank Senior or Eubank Junior or anybody else right and wrong. You know, George has always been the underdog. He's always been the B-side. I'm just proud and privileged to be beside him as a friend, and obviously as a coach, to see him when he was cobraed to where he is now.
Did his shoulder sort of put back in, or did it pop back in? What kind of happened with the injury after?
We don't know.
How much pain was he in sort of after the decision?
Well, I think when your adrenaline's going all the time, I think he knew something was wrong. He wasn't able to throw with it. So, as Calla said, just the fact that he was able to slip, slide, tie him up, and Eubank Junior. I think one of the things we've got to allude to is that Eubank Junior was hurt numerous times throughout that fight. He was hurt, stunned, and that's why he was so fatigued. His legs were so heavy, and he wasn't able to find the finishing touches, even when George had he had one hand, so he was fully in control.
Was he get the glove off? Because
Yeah, we got the glove off in the ring.
yeah, didn't pull him out or something. It was okay, was it?
No, we got a guy called Kevin Lidlow, who's a top physio. Just been working with him for a long time. He secured the shoulder, and we were able to take the gloves and wraps off. So he's his hands free, and he's in the weight hospital.
Shane, would you say that's George's best win?
From a personal standpoint, yes. From a boxing standpoint, I believe Chudinov was a better win than that.
Did you expect it to be that scrappy, Shane? Because it was some of the rounds were hard to score, and it was pretty untidy, with lots of missing. And did you count on that happening? Because that's the way you bank boxers sometimes.
He has to plant his feet to throw. The game plan was to offset his feet, keep it, give yourself as much space as possible, let him lunge in, and as soon as he lunged in, rather than step back again and let him come in with his next attack, it was to step back, nullify him, shut him down, and I feel like he couldn't adjust the whole way through that fight. It was simple, basic tactics that George was able to execute from the first round to the last round, and as George said, it's levels. George really was on. He wasn't showing everything he's got in that fight tonight. I feel like Eubank just come unstuck in every department.
Did anything about Eubank impress you tonight?
I mean, yeah, he took some good shots, and he was able to keep coming back. I mean, the character of the man was able to come back, but I feel like he looked lost in there tonight. I feel like he needs to go and reassess his career. I believe he's a middleweight. Go back down to middleweight, get a good team around him, not Cowboys, and rebuild.
Did George box sort of exactly as a plan?
He couldn't. If they fought 10 times, I believe he'd beaten 10 times out of 10, and I believe 5 times out of 10 he'd stop him. That's as simple as I can put it.
How important was the cut, Shane? Did that change the tempo of the fight at all?
I mean, I think it was more the power that stunned him, nullified him, slowed him down, made him apprehensive. I could hear the other corner screaming, "Go on, put the pressure on him, put the pressure on him." And he did, but he only felt like he was able to do it when he was in close, when he was physically pushing and punching off it. He never felt comfortable to set anything up with a long jab, never felt comfortable to trade right hands with George. He was the invincible man going in there apparently tonight, and he come unstuck in many departments, I feel.
Coming to boxing, we'd just like to congratulate you on an absolute master plan, so well done.
Thank you, mate, appreciate it. But as I said, you're only as good as your fighters, and he listens, and he's learned from his mistakes. And very proud of him. So, appreciate it.
What do you do in the front of the other semi next week?
I think we're going to go out there, yeah. Have a,
How do you think it's going to go?
I think Smith will stop in mid to late rounds.
You expect Smith to be a tougher fight than you, mate?
Technically, yes, he boxed at a higher level as an international, as an amateur. He still wasn't. If you look at the guys that George Groves has lost to, Carl Froch, I think he won a bronze as a world champion, in the world championships as an amateur, and Badger Jack was a very, very top quality skilled operator as an amateur. So they were able to make that transition. I feel like Callum Smith has got very good amateur credentials and pedigree, but I still believe George has the tools to beat him. I'm going to go to hospital. Thanks guys.
Thanks, Shane. Well done.
Appreciate it.